Nowadays, most people grow up in the city or at the end of a cul-de-sac. But when I was a kid, I got to grow up out in the country, farmland, because my dad was a country pastor. And one of the really cool things about Dad pastoring a small country church was that every once in a while, somebody in the congregation would invite us to come out and to see what they did for a living. So one day we all pile in the family car and we find out that we're driving to see one of the church people's chicken farm. And at that point we all kind of knew this wasn't really a privilege. Because, I mean, if you've never had the experience of smelling a southern Delaware chicken farm, then you've missed an exquisite smell. I'll just put it that way. I mean, it's one of those things that you can smell it before you see it. And so there we are driving along, and sure enough, we start smelling something, and after a little while longer, we can see the farmhouse, and we pull into their driveway, and we get out, and it's just like, whoa, how do you live in this place? And the family was just very gracious and loving and nice and kind. They invite us in, we sit down at the kitchen table, we hang out, we talk for a little while, and then finally the farmer stops and says, well, do you want to see the chicken farm? So we say, okay. It's kind of like, you know, do I really have to? But we did. We get up and we get out, and we're walking closer and closer to these chicken farms until finally we're standing outside the door. And he looks at us and he says, well, do you want to go in? And I'm thinking, do I really have to? And yes, I really had to. He opens the door. I'm going to tell you, taking that first step through that door was like getting hit in the nose with a 2x4 of smell. And as cute as the little baby chickens looked pecking around on the ground, I mean, the smell was overpowering. It was, you know, tears were rolling down our faces from the ammonia. It was just like, oh my gosh. And finally he's like, okay, you guys seen enough? And we're all like, yes, we have. And so we get out of the chicken house, and the strangest thing happened. You know, we moved from the inside to the outside, and that air that had been smelling so horrific before we went in, we get out and we stop, and I tell you what, it smelled like the wind of heaven. Now I wonder if culture is kind of like that. I think it is. Culture is kind of like the air that we breathe.